Yesterday, we embarked on a very special journey this Navratri. We began our Chandi Jnana Yajnam, and today, as we go forward with it, just to refresh our memories and to make sure we're all aligned on where we left off and where we come back today, we began with a question, and I hope that you've carried that question home, which is, what are you seeking from this Saptashati, from this Yagam? Because whatever it is that you're seeking is waiting to reach you. You just have to open the doors to let the sunlight in. That's about all it takes. And this Katha in particular is extraordinary because the 700 mantras that appear in this Katha are offered as ahuti in homams. And that forms the basis of the Chandi homam. Nowhere else do we see a Purana Katha used directly as is to be offered an ahuti. Now, there can be some confusion for some people as to, we said 700 mantras and not 700 shlokas. The difference is a mantra is offered into an ahuti. So, although the number of shlokas, like I said, is 500 plus, around 518 or so, when I say there are 700 mantras, you will see this further on today and tomorrow. When certain shlokas have, for example, Yadevi Sarvabhuteshu, Namastasye comes 3 times, followed by Namo Namaha. So it is Namastasye Swaha becomes once, then Namastasye Swaha again. So when you add it up like that, that is the way Rishis have designed for it to be 700 exact. We discussed that connection that 700 has with another Grantha, identical in its structure. Here, the context is very similar. It is 2 people who are struggling to make terms with what life is throwing at them. There it was one being experiencing both the emotions. Here it is split as 2 beings. One is a king, Surata, whose kingdom he had to give up to the enemy attack. And the second is a merchant, Samadhi is his name. And Samadhi has been thrown out by his family. And both of them come to whose ashram? Sumedha's ashram. And they seek Sumedha's guidance in getting over what is happening inside their heads. Interestingly, if you observed, neither Surata nor Samadhi asked Sumedha to solve the problem. Surata did not say, ask for my enemies to go away. Samadhi did not say, ask for my family to accept me again. They asked for themselves to be corrected. Arjuna also asked for the same thing. He said, tell me what I can do. So the onus on the self, that is where this Grantham starts. It makes us think, what are we going to do about our behavior, not about the external world. From there, Sumedha took them on to the first Charitram and said, do not think that it is you alone that has knowledge, because everybody in this universe operates with knowledge. And that knowledge is always, always controlled by a superior knowledge. That superior knowledge is extremely deluding in nature. And that knowledge's name is Mahamaya. And he began with the first Charitram. That Charitram of how Mahamaya filled up the body of Vishnu as Yoganidra. And Brahmadeva, who looked at this problem now, because her being inside Vishnu's body is not a problem. But Madhu and Kaitabha were causing havoc. And for that, Vishnu had to wake up. So for Vishnu to wake up, Yoganidra had to leave his body. Brahma does an incredible stuti to her, and if time permits today, more of that stuti will emerge. But at the end of that stuti, leaving his entire body, Vishnu stirs once Yogamaya has left his body, and then he looks at Madhu and Kaitabha, and after a series of occurrences, he does the samharam of these 2 Rakshasas. We discussed what Madhu and Kaitabha mean, about how Madhu is that intrinsic tamasic nature, and Kaitabha is the bee that keeps buzzing around it like a restless mind. And the idea also that once this Madhu, when we look at our own lives, we're always in pursuit of something sweet, that honey which you find in the beehive. But that honey comes with the bee's sting also. So this is exactly our lives. We keep going back to the same incidents that bring us pain and pleasure. And somehow we derive some sort of satisfaction in that. It is only when he cuts that at its source. He only does that for bhaktas who ask. That is why Madhavo Bhaktavatsalaha, as we discussed. From then, this Charitram was Sumedha's initiation to both of them, saying, understand the nature of Mahamaya. And now, as he begins the second Charitram, the understanding also he wants to deepen. So this Charitram is longer. Don't worry, we'll still finish at 7:30 only. This Charitram, as we began envisioning yesterday, we did not only hear it, we internalized it, begins with Mahishasura's tyranny across Trilokas. Mahishasura is said to have had a war with Indra for about 100 years, at the end of which Indra lost that war, and all the Devatas' positions, all their offices were taken over by Mahishasura. They then came to Prajapati. Prajapati took them to Vishnu and Shiva, and there all the adharmas that Mahesha was doing was read out to them. When Shiva and Vishnu and all the others heard this, beginning from them, a Jyoti emerged from their Agnya Chakram. Remember the place where it comes from, that has some meaning. And collectively, one Jyoti Punjam, one beam of light was formed. From that beam of light, from head to toe, that beam of light took a female form. That female form stepped out, and as she did, each of the Devatas took their Ayudham and gave a replica of their Ayudham into her hands. I'm stressing on the word replica because otherwise when you visualize it, you'll wonder if Shiva gave off Trishul, then Shiva's hand is empty, is it? It is akin to lighting one lamp from another lamp. The first lamp remains as is, the second one has the complete Jyoti Swarupam. So here there is something very beautiful which we will explore shortly. But now, armed with how many hands we said? 18 says one version, but later in the same story, the number gets changed. And I'll tell you why. First, she sits on her lion, on her Simha Vahanam. Who gave that? Himavan. Father's gift is always special. So, she took that lion, and that lion is not an ordinary lion. Huh? Every Devata's Vahana, we will start today by doing a namaskaram to that lion, because every Devata's Vahana is an extraordinary support for us in our sadhana to reach that Devata. Many of you must be familiar that when you enter a Shivalayam, especially in Dakshina Bharatam, there is a practice of looking at Shiva through Nandi's eyes. What this means is, Nandi represents dharma. The objective of looking at Shiva like this is, may I see you through the eyes of dharma, may my eyes become dharmic, may I find God in my dharmic pursuits. That's the idea of looking at it. That's why the 4 legs of Nandi are the 4 pillars of dharma. So every Vahana, Vishnu's Garuda symbolizes something extraordinary as well. Only when the Visham inside our body, the toxicity inside our body and our mind is controlled, can we go to Vaikuntha. Garuda removes Vishasarpa Bhayam. His mantra, Garuda mantra, is also sacred for this, that he removes those kind of toxic fears. So we do a namaskaram to him before we see Perumal. So you will see this associated with every Devata, and in this case, look at the Vahanam that she chose. She chose a lion. Himavan gave her a lion, but what is this lion signifying? This lion signifies 2 things, courage and conviction. That courage of a sadhaka, that yes, I am on the right path, I believe in my faith, I believe in what I am doing. Because this is important for every sadhaka. Otherwise, as we are doing this, sometimes when the sadhana is not yet reached its Purna Dasha, when it is not completed, a question may come saying, is any of this going to bear any fruit? So long I have done it, but nothing has happened. That fellow did it for less time and something happened for him. Why not for me? That conviction, a lion, the absence of that conviction or the absence of that negative space, a lion depicts, saying, I will continue to do, my sadhana is mine. And she can be accessed through such a courageous sadhaka. That's why in sadhana, especially in Devi sadhana, they say this, that Devi will ask 10,000 times, do you want? And in certain intense sadhana, she will shake up the sadhaka, not because she wants to traumatize them, but because she wants to know the intensity of the ask. So, every time she shakes and life shakes, a sadhaka will stand up like that lion and say, I'm ready. I'm ready to come to you. That is what the lion represents. And so, she sits now on Srimad Simhasaneshwari she is. Simhasana has 2 meanings. One is lion, second is throne. Both apply to her. And this Simhasaneshwari, she laughs. That laugh is an attahasam. That attahasam is a laugh of knowledge because it is intended for somebody who is clouded in ignorance. Mahishasura, as many of you know, has a very well-known backstory to him. That he asked for a varam. The varam is what? That I should not die at the hands of devatas, manavas, etc., etc. Why do Puranas keep stressing on this same thing again and again and again? We all know. I mean, Mahishasura is here. One more was there who said, I should not die at devas, gandharvas, rakshasas, kinnaras, kimpurushas. Men are of no concern. Who thought like that? There was one more who was even smarter. He said, I should not die inside, outside, should not die at day, night, da. He also got vanquished. Why are they harping on the same idea? Because our buddhi can work in extremely twisted ways. It keeps finding ways, thinking I have outsmarted everything in this world. But to such a buddhi, Puranas give a lesson. You look down on any being in this creation thinking this is a lesser being than me. In that being's form only Paramatma will come and hit you. Ravana looked down on mankind. He thought, what can mankind do to me? And that's why Narayana came in the form of a man only and attacked him. Mahishasura looked down on a woman. And that is why she came as a woman to attack him. Anytime you believe that I am superior to this, she will come and she is the greatest equalizing force. Paramatma equalizes like none else. And now she stepped out in this form. When she stepped out in this form laughing, Mahishasura heard this and he stepped out to see. And he said, who is this? And what is this laughter? And now the shlokam says, Sadadarsha Mahadevim. He saw that Mahadevim Vyaptalokatrayam Tvisha. Vyaptalokatrayam. When you do Durga Dhyanam, the Vigraham that you may be doing the Dhyanam to is this much. The photo may be this much. The Kalasham may be this much. But when you are doing Dhyanam, in front of you the Murti is not this much. It is across Apatalana Bhastalanta Bhuvana Brahmandamavis Purajjoti. It is that Jyoti which is growing across the 14 worlds. You do Dhyanam like that, you will feel that that Vigraham is not this much anymore. So, Mahishasura himself is directly seeing that. Mahishasura is seeing this Swarupam, Sadadarsha Mahadevim, Vyaptalokatrayam. She's across the 3 worlds. He's seeing this Swarupam. And this feminine force seated on that lion is coming towards him. Mahishasura wasted absolutely no time. And he took with him 16 of his commanders, 16 of his close confidants, his trusted generals. These 16, if we sit to decode, it becomes extremely beautiful here. So now let's look at this moment. And there are moments we have to pause here. Because before we get into the dishum, I want us to think about why is this story and this context important. The Devatas were struggling with Mahishasura's tyranny. The Devatas here represent our Indriyas, as we mentioned yesterday. They represent our Indriyas. Deva, as we said, means Swayam Prakasha Lakshanam or Swabhava Lakshanam. They glow with light from within. That light from within comes through knowledge. It comes from internalizing Shastra Jnanam, from internalizing Paramatma. So our body, our organs, our sense organs also work like that. They also glow once we engage more and more with Paramatma. But sometimes Rajo Buddhi can come and displace this. Rajo Buddhi can come and say, hey, what is this? I am the ruler of all this. What Devata you are talking about? Has anybody seen them? Anybody knows that Durga actually has 18 hands? What is true is what you see now and here. There is no heaven and hell. There is no all of these. Rajo Buddhi only creates this. And Rajo Buddhi pushes away all the Indriyas, saying, no, I am the master. The one in this body is the master. When this happens, all these Indriyas are waiting to go towards the divine, but they get pulled down. This is where this story becomes real. If you've ever felt it, when you say, I want to be drawn towards God, but I'm not able to. I want to be able to chant with bhakti, but I'm not feeling it. It is a very real struggle. These are the Devatas trying to go in one direction, but the Asura tendencies are saying, Bekanam Gadala, it's okay, not required, can do it later. The Rajasic tendencies, this is where the Rajasic tendencies don't come in 1 or 2 ways. 16 ways in which they have been personified appear here as Mahishasura's generals. That Rajasic tendency is Mahishasura, but he'll not come alone. He'll come with a host of people. And he has his own balam, his own sainyam. It's a very strong sainyam. The reason is the mind is incredibly strong and it can take you down also with that much strength. That is why you look at any Purana Katha, the number of Rakshasa forces will be greater than the number of Devata forces. Because the Indriyas are limited, but the perceptions from those are multifold. They can take you in any direction. So here, the Devatas also have an army. They have accumulated that army. Our body, our mind also has accumulated things from Purva Janmas, from previous lives, from samskaras around us. Okay, our parents told us, keep doing this. We keep absorbing things from all around us saying, yes, I should do. But similarly, we have Gata Janma Papa Samskaras also. Those also pull us in another way. All this accumulation of samskaras, anything accumulated and hoarded is called as sampada. So, in the body, there is Deva Sampada. All the sampada that takes us towards Him, saying, I want to come, please let me come here. There is also Asuri Sampada. There is sampada that takes us away from Him. And when you put these together, you get something called Devasura Sampat Vibhaga Yogam. Sounding familiar? Bhagavad Gita. You want a detailed treatise on this aspect of it, you need help from Bhagavad Gita. This is why I said they're so intertwined. You shake Chandi Saptashati, not literally, don't do that to your books, please. The gems that will fall will be Bhagavad Gita and Rudra Namaka Chamakam. We will see how. One aspect is this, Devasura Sampat Vibhaga Yogam is indicated in Mahishasura and his generals. Now, I used a word. I said Sampada. Sampada is wealth. Who is the goddess of wealth? And this chapter is for Mahalakshmi. So the connection here of Mahalakshmi is about spiritual wealth. It is not the Lakshmi from whose hands dollars are flying out. Okay? This is the aspect we have to think about. This is why this portion is Mahalakshmi Charitram. Now, this general of Rajo Buddhi has a host of accompaniments with him. And his friends are so strong. Their names also indicate that. Names, for example, like Bidalaksha. Bidalaksha means somebody who has a cat's eye. What this means is the ability to look at something in a very distorted way. There are some people, you tell them the most positive of thing, they will find a way to make that also negative. That is a tendency of the mind. There is another friend that Mahishasura has. I'm not going into details of each of their names because these are not some beautiful things to be remembered. It's okay. As long as you remember what we need to, we'll focus on that. One of his other friends, his generals, is somebody who keeps saying, I am enough. I don't need anybody else. In this world, it's me and there's no God. He comes. Each of them, Chamara, this one is Bidalaksha. Host of Rakshasas' names are read out. And when we get there, you will see how each of them fights with Devi. And this battle is very, very interesting. Because once Devi steps into the battlefield, Mahishasura does not come first. You will see this across various yuddhas. In Ramayanam also, it's not that on day one, Ravana appeared in front of Rama. He came much later. The simple, most logical reasoning for this is simply because in a war, the king is not going to attack on day one. He will first send out his generals, and if there is a need, he will come. Otherwise, many a time, his army can take care of it. This is the surface level understanding. The second and the deeper level understanding is, until all of these Sahaya Shaktis, all of these supporting friends of Rajogunam go, Rajogunam as a Moolam will remain. So to remove Rajogunam itself, only she will come in the end. That is why you will see, now once the battle starts, the battle is with her and all of these people. Who did she come with? Shiva is correctly, eternally with her. Any of the Devatas accompanied her? In physical form, none accompanied her. She came alone. Story is making us think. She came on her lion. She came alone. This is nice, is it? She came for the Devatas. Then she says, Nan hog bartini, from up they're clapping, saying, yes, sure, you go and come. The story will make you think, why are they not here? And if they are not here, who is her Sainyam? Both these questions let's look at. Who is her Sainyam? When she enters onto the battlefield, she breathes out. When she breathes out, she releases a host of Sainyam. Number one. And that Sainyam is with her. Second aspect of why the Devatas did not come is because She came from the collective Shakti of the Devatas. The Devatas poured their Shakti into her. Now there is no physical requirement for them to be here in this moment. So once she steps out now onto the battlefield, each one she has a battle with in a different way. Each one she knows how to remove this. The ayudhas that are used by that Rakshasa and the counter ayudhas that are used by her become a great topic of understanding core psychology. For example, one of the ayudhas that is used on Devi is an ayudha that is called as Shakti. Shakti, because it is being used by a Rakshasa, it is a negative ayudha. So the only objective that this Rakshasa has in the mind is to say, I am the only power. There is nothing I cannot accomplish. Arrogance. The same arrogance that Madhu and Kaitapha had yesterday, saying, we'll give him a varam. That is the Shakti ayudham at work. And for each of these, she has a counter, because she knows how to pull that seed out of us. So this part of the story starts to talk to us about how if there is something that we are struggling with in our own behavior, if we can be 100% honest with how hypocritical we are outside and what's happening within us, she can balance that. If we recognize that, Amma, I'm struggling with this, I'm not able to let this go, Durga Upasana cures that. Because Durga is an intense, but a very, very kind, intense form. Remember this word kind. So now, once Devi steps out into this Yuddha Bhumi, some of the Rakshasas that she meets are Chikshura, Chamara, Mahahanu, Asiloma, Bhashkala, and so on. And when they are fighting, the Mahatmyam takes a very, very different turn. Because the Mahatmyam says that all the skies around where they are fighting are brightly lit up with all the astras. Because the astras have two qualities about them. One is the sound that happens when two of them meet. The second is just the jyoti that comes from it. Because astras that Devi sends out are mantras. So now something very, very interesting happens. I said Devi breathes out and her Sainyam comes. So her Sainyam starts to fight with Mahisha's Sainyam. And this is happening. On one hand, another set of Sainyam come out from her being, and what they start to do is they play the Mridangam and the Shankham and various Nadams. What is the idea of this? The idea of this is, as mantra sadhana inside our heart almost reaches its pinnacle, a spiritual sadhaka can experience the sound of certain things inside the body. So from nowhere, they can hear the sound of a Shankham, the sound of a Mridangam. To understand this, you have to go to Vrindavana Bhumi, where you have different trees like Vamshi Vat, where if you put your ear to that tree, you will hear the Mridangam. If you sit there and do sadhana for long enough, you will hear Krishna's flute itself. What is this? We are talking about Devi Mahatmya, we went off to Vrindavan. The two are extremely strongly connected. We will see how in the next few hours. So that idea that now within us, Durga is about to attain victory soon is indicated through all of them playing here. The Mridangam and all of the Mangalavadyam is symbolizing that very soon something extraordinary is about to happen. But before that, each Rakshasa must be dealt with. And when she has to deal with them, the way that Mahatmyam describes it, it says she's sitting on her lion and she's speeding through the hordes that Yuddha Bhumi. Some she's just not even looking at. She says hum, and some Rakshasas they just die. For others, she takes her Trishulam, she spins it around her, and when she does that, some Rakshasas that are attacking her, they collapse. Others, she handpicks and she cuts their heads off and she throws the heads for jackals to feed on. That entire Yuddha Bhumi looks so scary. So this is when we have to think, then is Durga a scary goddess? Because the Mahatmyam is not hesitating to describe the gore on the scene. But the gore on the scene is the struggle that happens in the body. Because when Rajogunam takes over, and Rajogunam is not, oh, I don't know what Rajogunam is. In a few minutes, we will see examples of what Rajogunam is in our own body. And then we will wonder, where is this Mahishasura sitting? So when this happens, the struggle is real. And the power that she puts in removing those negative qualities is equally real. So this war continues, and all of a sudden, now she's decided, all these fellows are coming one after the other, all these generals, I don't have time. I have come to kill Mahisha, so I will go. And she speeds on. And the way she speeds on, the Mahatmyam says it's like a forest fire going through a forest. Have you seen the speed at which a forest fire can take over? It takes a matter of minutes before which a forest that took thousands of years to come into being gets destroyed. That is how Durga works. That is how Durga sadhana works. That's why I told you, say Jaya Durga 3 times. It's enough, because her name, forest fire, they gave a beautiful indication of what Swarupam she is. Tam Agnivarnam Tapasajwalantim Vairochanim Karmaphaleshu Jushtam Durgan Devi Gum Sharanamaham Prapadye Sutarisitarase Namaha. Tam Agnivarnam. Durga's Swarupam only is Agni. That is why yesterday we said Surya took his kiranas and the radiance of every kirana he put into every pore of her body. That is why she is glowing like 1,000 suns. Durga is Agni Swarupam because Durga and Agni share one Lakshanam. They have the ability to burn any negative tendency within us. When you place something into fire, it is burnt to its purest form. There is nothing else left there. As Sarojini Naidu said in her poem, to purge the dross from the desire, to remove any impurities, gold is also placed into fire. All the impurities surrounding that metal, they get burnt away. Only pure gold remains. That is what Durga does to the Atma. Durga sadhana will do that. It will clean you. And that cleansing process is not necessarily an easy one. That cleansing process is difficult. In our minds, in our bodies, we struggle when that happens. And that struggle is an indication that the battle is happening. Navaratri is a time for that struggle and the siddhi of that struggle to become visible. We use this time to give her space to do her work. And that is why this time is phenomenal. In fact, in the context, because we are in Navaratri, we will just take a minute to talk about how Durga sadhana, especially at this time, is powerful. Because in a year, we have different portions that are allocated to different devatas. There are 2 times in a year when the spread of negative energies and the spread of diseases is extremely high. One of them is right after the rainy season. This rainy season just ended on Mahalaya Amavasya. That is the end of Varsha Ritu. Right after Varsha Ritu comes Sharad Ritu. In Sharad Ritu, as you are seeing around you, there are still stagnant pools of water that are left around. So insects come, they start to breed, mosquitoes breed. A host of physical ailments also are present in this time. So a lot of deaths are connected to this time. That's why this period in the year is called as Yamadamshtrika. It is like Yama's fangs, because people go inside Yama at this period. So to avoid that kind of thing happening to us, Navaratri sadhana is prescribed. Now, if that is at one level, the other level is at this time, right after Varsha Ritu, all of that rainy showers, all of that noise in the mind settles down. Sharat Kalam is autumn. Autumn is when everything is pleasant. In that time, we have an ability to go within. The collective silence here in this room yesterday and today is testimony to Sharat Kala, to that idea that we just have to sit and think about her. And this time is easier, because if you want to visualize what Kalam is, if we are sitting here in one place and doing Upasana, at certain Kalams, Bhagavat Shakti is here. It takes X to reach X amount of energy and effort for us to reach that, to climb that ladder and to go here. There are certain Kalams and certain Deshams, certain places and certain times where that Shakti will walk down the ladder and will pick you up and go. Navaratri is one such Kalam. In that time, if you listen to this Katha, you hold on to what's happening over here, effortlessly, what you otherwise have to put in 4x for, without that intensity, it easily comes. This again was shown to me by all of you yesterday when you closed your eyes and Durga came for you with no effort. The same thing on other times takes effort. So the collective power of time, that is represented over here. And that is represented in the fact that Durga is spending time killing the other Rakshasas. But her main focus is Mahishasura. And as she goes on and that war intensifies, now his generals come one by one. Each of them is extremely strong. And she decides, you know what, I will take them on. So Chikshura comes and he sees, remember, Asura's size, Durga's size. So he comes with great confidence though. The Asuras have they teach us fantastic things about self-confidence. Because whether they have content or not, they have great levels of confidence. So he comes with the idea of shooting arrows at Devi. So he sends a shower of arrows on her. And here the Mahatmyam says, it fell on her like a drizzle from above. How did it fall from above? He is here, she is there, no? Because she allowed it to fall on herself. There is a rahasyam over here. But before we get there, look at the visual imagery that it is creating. He is sending down this force of arrows on her and it's landing on her so effortlessly. So one is they're showing you how it's not even touching her, but it's showing you the size. These are dhyana murtis. This murti of Durga is very similar to how in Kumara Sambhavam, Kalidasa describes Himalaya Parvatam. And he says, for Himalaya Parvatam, the clouds become the waistband. Here, this idea is the Rakshasa is so small and she is up there. Here, the arrows are not even touching her tip. That is what it is indicated, her size, that's how glowing she is up in the skies. And this Swarupam, once she takes these arrows on, she is in no mood. So, she strings her bow. Mahisha hears it the very first time. Durga arrives with Nadam. Our Katha yesterday also began with Nadam. You know how? Where did Madhu and Kaitaba, I shouldn't have done that. Where did Madhu and Kaitaba come from? Vishnu Karnam Alodbhutau. From his earwax. Srishti, ear is the place where sound gets absorbed from. So, the idea that Srishti begins with Shabdam is indicated with Madhu and Kaitaba coming out over here. This story also, as soon as she was created, what did she do? She laughed. Shabdam, Nadam. That Nada Parabrahma, when she stepped out to kill Mahishasura, that time only she strung her bow and she struck it. The twang of that bow, Mahishasura heard. The twang of that same bow, if you are a bhakta, that will take you straight to this Nada Bindu Sthanam of Sahasrara Chakram. That is what happened to Tyagaraja Swami. When he heard the sound of that bow, he said, Swaramularu Noka Gantamulu Vararagamu Kodandamu. All the ragas are the bow. And now it is being strung into Omkara. So this rahasyam here, that Durga is Omkara Swarupini. Anytime you do dhyana, especially of Devi, you see this for other murtis as well, but especially of Devi, there is a component of nada that is involved. When we spoke about Saundarya Lahari earlier, we have spoken about how the bells on her waistband are always chiming. They're making a sound of their own. That is the Swarupam that you see in front of you. So when you see her, she's not static. Do dhyanam of her with sound. Visually is what you see, orally is what you hear. Now, this Devi, this Durga Swarupini has come with a bow, and with the bow, she looked at his arrows and she said, hey, what arrows you have, man? And she broke his bow. It's really rude, honestly. It's like he was so proud of that, and she said, Adien Gati, in front of me, what is that? That is what she does to pride. She will break it at its source. But these fellows are not easy to go. So each of them comes one after the other. So Chikshura comes, after him comes Chamara, and she takes some time for them. Because this is the thing about the Mahatmyam. The Mahatmyam is not telling you that pat came, she just killed with her Trishulam and she went. The struggle inside is real. The struggle inside also takes time. Sadhana takes time. Today if you do a Navratri by Mahanavami, please don't wait for her to send a Vimanam and for you to rise. It takes time. It takes repeated attempts. That is why the story is telling them, Sumedha is telling them the story of multiple Rakshasas. Everything should have ended when Vishnu killed Madhu and Kaitabhanu, but again Mahishasura came. Because in Kala Chakram, these negative possibilities are also waiting. They are also looking for an opportunity in our mind to come out. And they can come out in the most unexpected of forms. And when they come out in the most unexpected of forms, for a bhakta, she will come out in the equally unexpected form. That is why we have to understand Durga's anger over here. Here, the idea of anger, like we said yesterday, it is one aspect is, it is divine anger. But the beauty of Sanatana Dharma is, when Devatas have anger, we made a stuti to that anger. That is why in Vedam we find something called the Manyu Suktam. Manyu is the word for kopa, for anger. There is an entire stuti to God's anger. This stuti only we are doing in Rudram every day. Namaste Rudramanyava Utota Ishave Namaha. Rudra, nimge on namaskara, nim kopak on namaskara. Namaskaram to your bow, namaskaram to your arrow, namaskaram to your quiver. Now may those all become, I am seeing the anger in them. Imagine, Rudram is beginning with anger like this. Durga's story also began with anger. What an angry goddess, no? This poor understanding is what led to many Western and then many Indian scholars quickly translating Durga and Kali as bloodthirsty goddesses that are in some fit of rage, and then they need some male force to come and say Samadhana, Samadhana. This poor understanding is what we will try and overcome today. The idea of this anger is, the anger of Paramatma is like fire. It comes to burn certain tendencies within us. The tendencies here are three: sattva, rajas, and tamas. I watched my words very carefully. Sattva, rajas, and tamas, all three have to be burnt. Now, if you heard me yesterday, 100% you'll be confused. Because yesterday, Sattva Buddhi was a Devata, and that Devata was protected. Rajo Buddhi and Tamo Buddhi, anyway, we're taking care of now. But Sattva Buddhi also, she will burn. That is her nature. Her nature is to burn anything that comes in contact with her, except the Atma, because the Atma cannot be burnt, cannot be hit. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha. Where is this from? Bhagavad Gita. The connection is here. Nothing, that Atma Vastu cannot be affected by anything. But when that anger consumes everything else, it is doing so because it is reminding us, you are not all of these things. Your Satswarupam, your true nature is something greater. Your true nature is beyond this. But this anger keeps coming towards us. On a daily basis, this anger is attacking us. That is what Rudram is also saying. In the form of Prakriti, in the form of Panchamahabhutas, in the form of experiences. Experiences sometimes pleasant, sometimes unpleasant. Those are the arrows that she keeps throwing at us. She keeps firing those arrows. All we do is bow down and say, may those fierce arrows that you are sending down, your anger is why? Your anger is because of my karmas. Devi does not like somebody and dislike someone else. Name dveshasti na priyaha. I don't have any favorites. I don't have anybody I don't like. Based on your karmas, I will come in a certain way. So, all we do in Namrata Bhavam is to bend down and say, Amma, you know best. All we do is say, reduce the intensity of that arrows towards me, Amma. But if somebody is attacking me, please turn it towards them. And this is lovely, no? This is why we love Chandi Saptashati, because when you read the Palashruti, it will say, Shatru Samharam, that, oh yes, my enemies will be destroyed. Chandika will go and directly knock on their door and directly with one Trishulam implant over. But the problem is, the Shatrus mostly are here. For an average person, there are not some exceedingly large amount of Shatrus. Our lives are not all that grand. The Shatrus that exist within, no, these are very difficult to kill. And Mahatmyam talks about these Shatrus. Because when you do the Parayanam repeatedly, there is a possibility to internalize this and to say, oh, this is a tendency in my mind. Durga, please come now. Remove this. That is why Durita Nashini she is called as. Because she can remove that Durita, that Dusthiti inside us. And now she does exactly that on the Yuddha Bhumi. So the Yuddha Bhumi, let's not wonder which place did it happen in. It's happening here. How many years did I say Indra and Mahishasura fought for? 100. 5,000 was Vishnu and Madhukaitabha. 100 years. 100 years is the average human lifespan. So the indication here is, for as long as we are alive, within us, Devas and Asuras are constantly fighting. And at the end of the spiritual journey, our hope is not Devas should not be fighting, Devadi Devi should come and fight and take care of it. So a lifelong pursuit of sadhana results in her stepping in. In the first case, she got Vishnu to do it. In this case, she said, I myself am coming. She is no different from Vishnu. But the tattvam here is, sometimes certain negative tendencies she has to directly remove. And this is the beautiful secret in different Devata Aradhanas. Sometimes a thorn has to be pulled out with a thorn. There are certain ways that have to be matched. What is the person in front and how are they attacking? You have to attack them back in the same way. Krishna knows this rahasyam very well. That is why for Duryodhana he has one strategy. For the gopis he has a different strategy. Each person, Shishupala, very different approach. 100 times he keeps quiet. 100th time he says, Sakai tapa, enough. There is a certain divine law that is at work that is looking at how did you spend your time engaging with Paramatma. If you are constantly fearing Paramatma, Paramatma will come to you in a fearful form. But if you are embracing him with love like the gopis did, then he will come to you as a lover. Mahishasura looked with great anger. Kamsa looked with great disgust and great fear. That is why when he came onto Kamsa, he jumped onto his thighs and pulled his hair and then killed him. Because that fear became Kamsa's patram for mukti. So for sadhana, this is a rahasyam. Whatever emotion we are having within us, predominantly, that emotion becomes a devata. That is why anger is a devata. anything. That is why Kamam is a Devata. That is why the Samskriti has the concept of Kama Deva. Any emotion embodied has a certain divine ruling to it. If you look at God with anger through your life and you say, what will you do? Let me see. Then God will come as anger manifest and say, okay, I will show you with my divine anger what I'm capable of. Now let us see who can win this. So in that moment now, she's representing and embodying that divine anger that has to remove and tear apart certain negative tendencies within us. As she does that, she fights Rakshasa after Rakshasa, and now Mahishasura hears about some of his the slaying of some of his kinsmen. He sends out two people last till the end, Durdhara and Durmada. Very, very interesting names, but their presence is almost the penultimate, because up till this point she has found a way to kill each one of them. Some of them she killed with the sword. Do you remember who gave the sword? The sword was given by Kaladeva yesterday when we shared. It is very interesting. Typically we look at Yama as the ruler of time, because Kala Chakram is held by Yama. Yama gave a dandam to her when she came, when she emerged. They again specified yesterday in the Mahatmyam that along with this, Kaladeva came and he gave a sword. Why sword? Each Ayudha, if you look at which Devata gave what Ayudha, what does that Ayudha do in this body, you will see extraordinary connections. Those of you familiar with the Khadgamala Stotram of Devi, you will know that in the Khadgamala, before you begin chanting the Khadgamala, you will say why you are reciting this. Over there you say, Mama Khadga Siddhyarthe Jape Viniyogaha. Means so that I get a sword. Not literally. It means the sword cuts and gives us clarity on what is real and what is not real. The sword of discernment she has in her hands. And she uses that sword and she attacks all those Rakshasas who are saying, we are real, we are real, we are real. These are like thoughts that keep coming at us. I am real, I am real. What I'm thinking is real. She'll cut that and she says, that's not real. The only real thing is Atma Vastu. And she chooses different Ayudhas for different Rakshasas. But as she goes on now, Mahishasura has had enough. Rajogunam thought it had all these companions to pull divinity and to keep divinity in control. But now those companions have gone. Rajogunam alone is left. The battlefield is looking like a river in full monsoon, except the river here is of blood. That's how it's flowing. And in the middle of this battlefield, now Mahishasura came. And when Mahishasura comes, it's not a feeble, gentle entry where he'll open the doors softly and come. He comes roaring in his Mula Swarupam, which is that of a buffalo. And that roaring is so loud and so powerful because Rajogunam is like that. If you have ever had an intrusive thought, you will understand this. One thought that says, no, I want to do this right now in this way. That is Mahishasura. In that moment, all your thinking gets clouded. And that thought is so powerful because that's what happens. It takes over buddhi completely. And when he comes, that is what is signified in the story. When he comes, he inhales. As he inhales, mountains get lifted. In our head, that's what happens when one negative thought comes. Mountains get lifted. He said this to me. Who does he think he is? Thoughts are doing that. Within our body, something is happening. And his tail is lashing at the back. With the tail lashing, oceans are getting lifted. Oceans are getting moved out of their course. All of these things are happening. And as he's striking his hooves on the ground coming towards Durga, he roars. And she looks at him and she laughs. And now when they are face to face between Durga and Mahisha, the most extraordinary yuddham happens. Because now it is a one-on-one yuddham. But the beauty of this yuddham is how every part of this yuddham she has waited for. This is Devi Aradhana. This is what Devi Aradhana does. That she is waiting to come and do Rakshasa Samharam inside us. Because the lion is sitting here. She is on that lion. And this much is enough for her. So as she steps on with complete focus, Mahishasura first sends out all the Ayudhas that he has. They don't work with her. But Mahisha is a very, very interesting form. Because this form is Rajo Buddhi alone. Rajo Buddhi has the tendency to make us addicted to some behavior. Please don't assume addiction only means this or this. Anything that negatively we keep doing, even if we keep thinking about something negatively, if we have a tendency, that tendency is Rajo Buddhi. the tendency to just look at something and be critical of it. It's a very, we don't even realize we are going through this. And that takes 8 different forms. That 8 different forms is what is represented in Mahisha's different companions. It is also represented in the different ayudhas that Mahisha uses. If it is okay, can we spend time understanding what those 8 things are? Because those are things that pertain to us. And this is when Mahatmyam, like I said, becomes a very, very interesting text to actually understand how all of these are tendencies that we are all in many, many ways subject to. Out of those 8 different tendencies, one aspect that we see is the ability of the mind to crave something, saying, I want that. That craving Ravanasura had. And once you take one case study, you'll understand all of this extremely well. Once such a craving comes, it becomes so difficult to get it out of the head. That is why that craving keeps coming back. I want that pretty woman, I want that pretty woman, I want that pretty woman. Should we take Ravana as a case study for this? It is also Sri Ramanavami, and not Sri Ramanavami, but Vijay Dashami is going to come now. So Ramakatha also should come a little bit. So, in this context, Ravana keeps doing smarana of Sita. I want. So what does he go and do? He goes and tells Maricha, she should be mine. So the first thing in the mind that takes us towards sensual pleasures is not only lustful pleasures. Anything that we keep constantly thinking about, that is represented through smarana. The next one is kirtanam. This kirtanam is beko, 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 beko. You tell 10 people around it, Anman beke beko. Even if you don't voice it out, many a times there are ways that we find ways to say it out. This is the second aspect of the Rajo Buddhi at work. The third is Keli, that is indulgence in that pleasure. Now in the case of Ravana, he did not have the chance to indulge fully in that pleasure, but by bringing Sita and placing her into Lanka, that was the maximum indulgence he could have. The next is Prekshanam. Prekshanam means once you've had an experience of that whatever you were craving for, you keep going back to it again and again. Typically, if you're off sweets for a very long time and you had a bite of something sweet, you keep wanting, okay, can I just finish that laddu? Actually, half a tagonde, if I just finish it, it'll be over, right? So it's the mind. This is Prekshanam. And it will convince you that it's a good idea. That's why Mahishasura is strong. After this comes Guhya Bhashana. Guhya Bhashana means that, okay, everybody's telling me I'm a sugar patient. I shouldn't be doing this. We are talking about Ravana's example. Everybody's telling him, don't do this, return Sita. He finds secretive ways. Anybody who tells him that, he says, get out. In the mind, if something positive comes and says, don't do that, don't eat that kind of sweet, it's not good for you, we throw that thought out, saying, get out. What I prefer is I will find some secretive way to make that mine. That aspect is in Guhya Bhashana. Then comes Sankalpa. No matter what, I will do it. This is when addiction becomes serious. This is when any kind of addiction that we have can become our biggest undoing. And after this comes the idea of Adhyaya Vasaya, which means no matter what, I'll violate any rules to have that for me. Now you're at a stage where it doesn't matter what is right, what is wrong. You've lost that discernment. That Vivekam is completely gone. No matter what, I want it and I want it for myself. And ultimately is the idea of Kriya Nishpatti, which is when you got what you wanted. Except that getting what you wanted is not positive. If you ask anyone who is addicted to any activity repeatedly when they do it, when they finally get it and they finish that indulgence, it doesn't feel good. It feels like what just happened. Because Mahishasura cannot make the body feel good. Durga alone has to come and de-weed. All of these she has to remove. And this is why in this story you see something that you don't see in any other story. Mahishasura, when he comes at her, first he comes in the form of buffalo. Then after this, he becomes an elephant. That elephant is the Mada Gajam. Madam is the arrogance. Who is this woman and what can she do? After this elephant comes, she immediately takes her pasham, because there is a goad that is used to control an elephant, if you've seen. I'm not at all advocating it for in the sense of animals that we see should be harmed, but this is all representing Pashu Pravritti. Pashu Pravritti is animal-like behavior, not animal. So, Pashu Pravritti is the arrogance of the elephant saying, what you'll do to me? And that big an elephant, you can control with this smaller goad. If you've seen, The Mahut who will sit on top of it will just poke it here and it will do the job. Again, this is used in the context of a divine metaphor, not to be taken literally. That all that powerful Mother Gajam, she'll control saying, what will you fight with me? Do you know who I am? So, this tendency, now this body is also not useful for him. First, buffalo to elephant, and out of elephant, he leaves the elephant form and he suddenly becomes a lion. Now, there are two lions over here. One lion is the lion, Shri Simhaya Mahabalaya Namaha, is Devi Simha's mantram. You do a namaskaram to Devi Simha, it is equivalent to doing namaskaram to all the devatas, because she is Sarva Devata Atmika. So, this Simha is on one hand, now there is a negative Simha. We spoke about the positive aspects of the Simha. The Simha has courage and has conviction. Now, what is the negative aspect? The negative aspect is Simha is equal to Himsa. Himsa pravritti. Let me hurt that person. Let me find some way to hurt them. So he becomes a Simha and he tries to attack her Simha. Her Simha is her Bhakta. If somebody lays a hand on her Bhakta, she will lay a hand on them. She will not let that Bhakta fight it. She will say, I am stepping in now, and she immediately goes onto the Simham. And at this point, when she is attacking the Simham, her Simham screams. He screams and he roars, and Mahatmyam says something very interesting. The Simham does two things. First is he roars. This is her Simham. When he roars, he also shakes his mane like this. The roaring is out of anger. The shaking of his mane is out of joy. A lion only does that when he's feeling very happy inside. That aspect is, my sadhana is about to reach fruit. What I came for, I'm about to see it happen. The Simham didn't have to fight the Yuddham. The Simham had to be the vehicle for Devi to fight the Yuddham. This Simham doesn't have to fight the Yuddham. Durga here has to sit. She's just using this as her vehicle. That's all it is. So this Simham is thrilled now when the other Simham is quelled. But that Simham is not dead. That Simham finds another way. One addictive thought if you have, it finds 100 different ways of expression. So it will come out in another form if you don't treat it. So now that Simham goes and becomes a man. When this becomes a man, she is about to take it on with her Trishulam. Before this, with other Rakshasas in his Sainyam, she even fought Kushti Yuddham. She fought with her hands. She got down from the chariot and fought with them one-on-one. She put away all the Ayudhas and she said, no, I'll take them on hand-on. But with this guy now, when he has taken the form of a man, she's about to go, she strikes him. Again, he becomes a buffalo and he starts to charge at her. They jump up into the skies. And when they jump up into the skies, both are now in the Gagana Mandalam. So all the devatas are watching above them. Everybody is looking to see in this moment what will happen. Mahishasura launches at her with his hooves full screaming. He is roaring and his horns he wants to pierce her. And in that moment, he roars. And when he roars, she, in that moment, is taken 1 second of a break. You know why? Because somebody gave her a pana patram. Somebody gave her something to drink. Who was that? Kubera gave the pana patram. In that moment, she was drinking what Kubera gave her. The madhu that she was drinking. Madhu. Not madhu, the rakshasa, but the madhu, the sweetness of the self she was drinking. And in that moment, Mahisha came into the Gagana Mandalam, into the skies, screaming. And when you're enjoying something and somebody comes screaming, ruining that joyful moment for you, imagine how anybody's reaction is. That is exactly why she says, Gajja Gajja Mahamudha Madhuyavat Pibamyaham. Laugh, roar, you stupid fellow, Mahamudha. It's not any nice term. Gajja Gajja Mahamudha Madhuyavat Pibamyaham. Till I drink that madhu, you laugh. Because after this, devatas will do garjanam. Devatas will be roaring in the sky. That is an indication this madhu is nothing but the kundalini yogam reaching the sahasrara chakram. For that to happen, rajogunam must completely be destroyed. So she keeps aside this panapatram, she takes it back into her hand, and with that she looks at Mahisha and she steps forth. In this battle, nobody else can take part because it is a battle that happens on a divine plane. And when she does that, now she looks at him and he's charging towards her. So she first steps out, she steps towards him and gives him one kick. With that kick, he lands onto the earth. When he lands onto the earth, before he can step up again, she pushes with her left foot, she keeps that foot firmly on him. When she's doing that, he's struggling under that. And from that Mahisha Vadanam, from that bull, that buffalo form, she cuts the head of the buffalo. But the problem does not end there. The Mula Swarupam still comes out as Rajo Buddhi. Rajo Buddhi has to come out in its original form. That original form is very deluding in itself. It is half a buffalo and half a man. Inside us, Rajo Buddhi can look like it's our friend. It can look like a man or a woman inside us. But she looks at that. She has one foot firmly on him, on his body. The other foot is on the lion. Dakshina Padam is on the lion. Vama Padam is on Mahisha. From Mahisha comes out the man. She looks at the man and she says, enough. Because now, just before this yuddham with him, at that point when Mahisha was going on and on and on, she got angry. Her krodham says, enough. This nonsense can go on up to a point, but for a sadhaka's journey, I will not allow that. And in that moment, she takes the Trishulam and pierces it straight into Mahishasura's body. With that, all the devatas are thrilled. And in this moment, there is such a kusama vrishti from above that all the blood is now covered with flowers. But in this moment, the devatas, the stuti that they do, it contains the rahasyam of this episode. Because, think about it, Durga is such a Maha Agni Swarupam. She is an Agni that burns everything negative that comes in her way. Then why did she take so long for this sadhana? Why did she take so long for this sadhana to be complete and for her to kill Mahishasura? And the devatas begin a stuti. You want to understand this portion of the story, we need that stuti. Because that stuti shows us what the devatas are looking at. The devatas say, Amma, firstly we have a question. How did Mahishasura not die just when he looked at your form? Because your form is so imposing, so beautiful. But your form had your eyebrows like this. Knotted eyebrows you had. That Krodhagni is enough to destroy people. How did Mahishasura not die? Because you are Karunya Swarupini. Salpa inappropriate. Which part of this had any great Karunyam flowing out? But look at the story and what happened. I said yesterday that Brahmadeva called her as Mahadevi Mahasuri. She is also Mahasuri. So then only devatas are her children? No. She is the mother of Rakshasas as well. So how is it now that she has to kill the Rakshasas for the sake of the devatas? Isn't it unfair? Isn't it pakshapatam? Isn't it biased behavior? But here, Devi knows within us, the devatas, are certain gunas that have to be protected. And if these are protected, they will do their job well. There are certain gunas within us, unless they are destroyed and they are killed, we will not get better. So for both of them, she chooses the right path. And the stuti that the devatas make in the 5th chapter is so beautiful that one says, Amma, when you took out your khadgam to kill the Rakshasas, it's surprising they did not die immediately. You know why? I know the rahasyam, Amma. We know the rahasyam. Because you are standing in front of them with the khadgam like this. But what they are seeing, the khadgam is threatening their life, but what they are seeing behind is the Chandra on your kiritam. The Chandra is giving them amritam to survive. So, on one hand, your fierceness, on the other hand, your karunyam. Both are visible, Amma. And you know why they actually did not die at the very thought of your entry into the battlefield? Because Devi is equally concerned about them. Now, based on Mahishasura's track record, the only place he can buy a plot of land is in Narakam. So, if he goes like that, what about him? How will he get better? So, what she gave him is, she knows that a pataki, somebody who is on the path of self-destruction, will only go to Narakam. So, she has to take care of that jiva also. So, what did she do? She gave that jiva an opportunity to die in a battle. When any jiva dies in a battle, they go to Viraswargam. Remember Mahabharatam. When Yudhishthira goes to Swargam and he sees Duryodhana and others there, he learns that they have attained Viraswargam based on the fact that they were true to their dharma. So she gives them that opportunity. Otherwise, they'll go to Naraka. Second, and more importantly, is by standing in front of Mahishasura for so long, she gave him the bhagyam of seeing her Swarupam. Devi's Swarupa Darshanam itself is enough to remove those patakas. When the patakas come down, finally he's ready for moksham. So, Amma, you took Karunyam even on Mahishasura, Amma. That is your Swarupam. That is why Durge smrita harasi bhiti mashesha jantoho swasthair smrita matimateva shubham dadasi daridra dukkha bhayaharini katvadanya sarvopakara karanaya sadardra chitta. What a beautiful verse this is. Sarvopakara karanaya. She is always thinking, what can I do for this person? What can I do? Because she is Abrahmakita Janani. She is the mother of every being. She will not leave any being to be completely, to take care of themselves. She will say, what can I do for you? And she will see, for this jiva, in this method, I will operate. Nobody questions that methodology because she knows what she is doing. But in this case, that word is so beautiful. Sarvopakara karanaya sadardra chitta. Ardrata, as many of you know, means to be drenched. Ardram pushkarinim pushtim. Ardram yakkarinim yashtim. Ardram means she's drenched. She's drenched in what? Karunyam. She is drenched in Karunyam. She is drenching others in her Karuna. That is why it is a kind fierceness. If she really wanted to be fierce, none of the Rakshasas would have made it to the battlefield. By her Sankalpam, they came till this point. And when they came till this point, she said, come Nana, this Jiva, I will take care of it this fashion. You don't worry. Ultimately, I will absorb you back into me. That is her intense nature. That is why we have a beautiful formation called as the Saptashloki. Those who cannot read the entire Saptashati, they take different portions of different shlokas. The first one is the shloka that we spoke about yesterday, Jnani Nam Api Chetamsi. Those who say, I am Jnani, she will put the Moha Pasham and pull. That is the first one. One shlokam that they take is from here, from this Devata Stuti, which is the stotram, the shlokam that we just said, which is Sarvopakara Karanaya Sadardra Chitta. And this shlokam alone, if you understand, no, this is a Mahamantram. It says, those who think of you when they are in any difficulty, for them, you will give them safety. And those who think of you when they are well, okay, I've thought of her when I'm unwell, when I'm not doing okay, now I'm well, all is great. Why do I need to do puja at all? Because swasthai smrita mati mativa shubham dadasi. If you are well and you think of her, ati mativa shubham, she will give you shubhas that you cannot imagine and think of. That is moksha lokam. If you worship, a big question comes up to us saying, why should I worship if I already have everything? Everything that I asked for has come. Yes, but there is something greater than asking that comes into this relationship. And that, for me to have that, the only person I can show gratitude to is, or the only way I can show gratitude is through this worship. That is why the idea of upasana is very beautiful. If you're not okay, you worship her. Because what she will do is, dukkha hantri sukha prada. That is what she does. She will remove that dukkha. And if you are well, the absence of dukkha, she will take you into sukha. That sukha is moksha loka. That is her innate nature. That is why Durge Smrita, you think of Durga, Durge Smrita Harisibhiti Mashesha Jantoho, Swasti, that idea, Swasti, she will take care of you. She will ensure that you are well. That is all she requires. She requires your mind to call out to her. The Devatas didn't participate in the war because this war is beyond them. They already fought it with Mahishasura. But they knew that when she comes, she will fight that war. This is the aspect of any Devata Aradhana. When you worship Devi, Krishna, Vishnu, Shiva, whoever it may be, they will not leave you to fight your battles. They will fight it for you and with you. That is the aspect that gets revealed in this Charitram. Now this Charitram comes to a close with the Devata Stuti. But the Devatas recognize who Durga is. And they say, Amma, you are everywhere. You are there in a Punyatma's house, you are there in a Papatma's house. Again, it goes back to yesterday's philosophy, Ghora, Aghora. In this universe, they will always be there. Not everything is going to be pleasant and roses. There are also going to be thorns. You're there in a Punyatma's house as Lakshmi. You're there in a Papatma's house as Alakshmi. In every place you dwell, in some form or the other, because everything is Sarvam Shaktimayam Jagat. This entire universe is you. And this stotram that the Devatas make forms one of the core stotrams of the entire Saptashati. And this aspect gets revealed in the later verses, where as they are talking, the Devatas recognize the all-pervading nature of her. And something very beautiful comes up. So we'll take one or two shlokas from here, because it's not fair to to look at such an extraordinary portion and to let go of this. That is why this idea of this shlokam, they use a very, very beautiful word in this shlokam. They use a word called Ambika. This word, no, if you understand this, this recognizes or this shows what the Devatas have seen. The Devatas have seen from their bodies she came out. She took their ayudhas or took their offerings of ayudhas, and then she went and she won that war. Inside was her, and from inside came outside. So, inside in Sanskritam, antarlokam. Outside, bahirloka. Take the first syllables of each, a, ba. Put them together, Amba. That is why that is her name. Amba means the one who is inside and the one who is outside. Amba, Ambika mean the same thing. So that aspect, that every time you say Amba, you are saying the Shakti that is inside this body and the Shakti that is outside this body is one and the same, and that Shakti is my mother. That Shakti, if I have Matrubhavam towards, the Devatas had Matrubhavam towards her. That's why she blessed them in that format. You have Matrubhavam towards her, she will take care of you like a putra. That is why Tyagaraja Swami so beautifully said, Vinayakuni valane brovave nanno. The same way you think of Vinayaka, no, you think of me. Because you look at him with great love, like your son. So let me also be a participant or a recipient of that love. That aspect comes out in the beginning of the Devata Stuti, where they called her and say, Tam ambikam akhila deva maharshi pujyam bhaktya natasma vidadhatu shubhani sanaha. So many aspects here of the stotram that themselves are beautiful, but one idea that Durga, what did she do in this context? She came, somebody had a problem. Somebody sincere had a problem. Underline this word, sincerity. These Devatas did not only call out to her when they had a problem. For a bhakta who is a seeker, for a bhakta who is constantly thinking of you, they have the right to call out to you when things are not okay. That is the underlining aspect of sadhana. When you do your sadhana constantly for such a being, if something is not okay, if he calls, she'll come. Because you have been attached to this form or this namam or this swarupam even when you didn't have a need. So you didn't go and shop for something saying, okay, this problem is bothering me, which mantra can I now have? Go pick up something and go use it and discard it. You were there looking at them in all their glory, and then you said, Amma, this is bothering me now. You made a relationship with them. And for such a person, what she will do is, she will seat you into a boat and take you across the samsara sagara safely and put you on the other side. The problem for most of us is that we are in samsara sagaram, and this body that we have is a boat. Sometimes we don't know and we cannot give the oars to the boatsman. She is that boatsman. That is shown in the idea of Durga, which I will come to in just a minute. But cannot speak of Durga without speaking of one of her phenomenal bhaktas, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who said something very beautiful. He said, this world is an ocean. It's a river. It's a flowing sagaram. We have to go to the other bank of it. So for this, we need a boat. Now, the body becomes the boat to go to the other side. Right? The boat is capable of moving effortlessly between different banks of the river. The body is the boat. The moving waters are samsara. The body is in samsara. The boat is in the water. Paramahamsa said, as long as this is the case, everything is fine. If the water comes into the boat, meaning if samsara comes inside the body, that's when the problem is. So you remain in samsara. Don't let samsara enter you. Otherwise the boat will drown. The boat that was meant to take you to the other side will drown. For the Devatas, it was about to drown. Because Mahishasura came, that samsara came and completely was taking their entire boat down. And then at that point, the boatsman said, give me the oars. I'll make sure that I take you safely to the other side. That Swarupam, that is why Mokshadayini is Durga, and that is reflected beautifully in the words, Durga Bhavasagara Naurasanga. That she is the person who takes us across this difficult samsara. Difficult, like I said, is Dur. That word Duhu is all about difficult. It's difficult to get past Bhavasagara by ourselves. But effortlessly she will say, come, I will take you and I will put you onto the other side. That aspect is Durga. That whether you need something, whether you are struggling, whether you are craving, whatever it is that you need, she will find a way to safely deliver you to a place where you will have no more needs. This is depicted in the word Durga. It's also depicted in another goddess who is sitting right here. And she is commanding that we speak about this also. So Durga means the one who takes us to the other side, to a place where we have no needs anymore. Typically the kind of needs that we have are of four kinds. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Now, there is a very beautiful placement here. Dharma and Moksha are the bread of the sandwich. Inside is the filling. So what this means is, Artha and Kama should come through Dharma. That you should always make sure that all of your economic pursuit, you're asking for it, your needs are coming through Dharma. But eventually you want to reach to a place where you don't need any of these anymore. All of these work up to a point, but how long? So, Kamakshi lives where? Kanchipuram. Kanchipuram is also called what Peetham? Kamakoti Peetham. Kamakoti Peetham means what? Kamakoti means? Koti Kama means a crore. Koti is used as Anantam, as Ananta Sankhya, endless, where endless desires get fulfilled. Right? But I just said that she wants to also take us to a place where we have no needs. Koti in Sanskritam also refers to border. So, for example, Dhanush Koti, the tip of the bow. It has become Kodi colloquially, but it is Dhanush Koti, the tip of the bow, Rameshwaram. The tip is the point where on one side this will be there and the other side something else will be there, right? So, now what Koti is this? Is her residence called as? Kama Koti, which means Kama is on one side. What's on the other side? Moksha, because the other three have gone. Dharma, Artha over. Kama, and the other side is Moksha. Kama Koti means the one who takes us to the bank of Moksha from where there is nothing more to ask. Same aspect of Durga. That Kama Koti Peetheshwari only came as Durga. That aspect, if you internalize, she takes us from a state of granting us all our desires. When a child is learning something and a mother is trying to incentivize the child will say, Amma, I'll do this if you give chocolate. She'll give you chocolate and she'll incentivize you, but her lifelong objective is not to keep feeding you chocolates. Her objective is for you to learn that particular task at hand, for which if she needs to incentivize you, she'll give it to you. You'll say, Amma, I'll do this, but I also need this. She'll say, take pocket money back, tago. Her lifelong intention is not that. She wishes for something else for you. She'll take you to a place where you are self-sufficient and you don't need anything else. That is Kamakoti Peetheshwari. That activity she performs by ridding you of negativities that you don't need in your life, and for that she comes as Durga Swarupini, and she reminds you that I am the one who gives Deva and Daiva Sampada to you. I will fill your Indriyas and I will make them filled with bhakti, such that if you ever need anything, all you have to do is call out to me and I will appear. That is why this Charitram, when she fills us with Sampada, she becomes Mahalakshmi to us. And with that, Sumedha concludes the Dvitiya Charitram or the Madhyama Charitram of the Mahatmyam. The Mahatmyam concludes here at the end of the 5th chapter. Now, what is very, very interesting is the Stuti that the Devatas do. As I said, this Stuti is called as the Aparajita Stuti. They praised the one who cannot be defeated. I know all of you are packing up and saying we're done, but we're not. Sumedha didn't intend for us to finish so fast. So, now this story was for who yesterday I said? So the first one was for both. That, listen, delusion works on all of us beings, no exceptions. The second one was for the king, was for Surata, saying don't worry, Prapancham and this aspect of cyclic nature of power is always a reality. It happens. All you have to do is reach out to the goddess. Now, with Surata still had a desire. If you remember, yesterday in the beginning I was talking about how Surata said, I wonder how my poor elephant is doing. He had all these attachments. And now he was given this Upadesham saying, you listen, all you need to do is worship Durga and she will take care of those difficulties. So, this message was for Surata. Who's left? Samadhi. And Samadhi is interested in something. Samadhi is catching on very, very intently. So now the third Charitram that comes, this comes especially for Samadhi. Because this is the longest portion of the Mahatmyam. And here, the indication, like I said, the Prathama Charitram is one chapter, including Sumedha meeting Surata and Samadhi. That is just one chapter. That plus Mahakali's Avirbhavam. The next one, that is Mahalakshmi Charitram, is chapter 2, 3 and 4 of the Grantham. And then it is followed by the Stuti. After this begins the next Charitram, which is Mahasaraswati Charitram. Now this is long. It practically goes on till about chapter 11. 12 and 13, we typically see them as Phalashrutis. So the end of the action portions is there up till 11. The reason for this is, in both these chapters, that is, the first one, we saw Tamogunam and how Tamogunam caused all this pandemonium. So Tamogunam was removed. The second, Rajogunam came as Mahishasura, as the embodiment of Rajogunam he came. So Durga killed that. The third is about how which Gunam is left? Sattva Gunam is left. Sattva Gunam is also great up to a point. Any Gunam is useful up to a point. Sattva Gunam had the presence of mind to worship when everything was not okay. Don't know what to do? Do Bhagavat Namasmarana. But Sattva Gunam also has its limitations. And when Sattva Gunam has its limitations, it wants divinity. Sattva Gunam is very, very different from Rajogunam. Sattva Gunam also wants divinity. But Sattva Gunam, when it is mixed with Kinchit Rajogunam, just one drop of it, the way it wants divinity is different. When it came as Shuddha Sattva Gunam, when it came as pure, unadulterated Sattva Gunam for Brahmadeva, he did a Namaskaram and she came. Here, the third story takes a very different take on Sattva Gunam. It says Sattva is also useful, but you know what? If Sattva shows the mind that says, I am peaceful, yes, I am, then remember what we said. She puts Moha Pasham on that being also and says, really, let's check. And to such a being, to such a Sattva Gunam, suddenly it will say, spirituality, yes, put it in my pocket. Let it be one more thing that I carry with me. That is why that entire being becomes the two Rakshasas over here. In the case of Mahishasura, it was Rajogunam predominantly. Now, Sattva Gunam, the negative shades of Sattva Gunam come out as two Rakshasas, Aham and Mama, where it looks like I'm very sorted. That Aham is Shumbha. And the Mama next to him, his brother, his inseparable brother. That's why they're shown as constantly together. So Aham and Mama come as Shumbha and Nishumbha. We will decode these names in some time. But basically what happens is these Rakshasas cause tyranny. This happens much, much, much after. Mahishasura Vadham is all over and much later this happens. And in this Charitram, look at the beautiful sequencing. This Charitram begins with the Devatas going to Himalaya Parvatam. Now, in the second chapter, where did they go? They went to Brahmadeva, and Brahmadeva took them to a space where Vishnu and Shiva both were present. That's all we are told. Kailasa, Vaikuntha, presumably Kailasa, because allied texts also tell us that, so most probably this. But in this case, they came to Himalaya Parvatam. First of all, the Mahatmyam is giving a great lesson in sadhana. You want to do sadhana, go to kshetrams. Don't go to kshetrams with the idea of doing a quick Kedarnath trip when you have summer holidays and trashing the already fragile environmental zone over there. That is not called sadhana. That is something off your bucket list, which is not what sadhakas do. You treat, there is a reason it is called as Deva Bhumi, because in those spaces, Devatas also come and do sadhana. For Devatas, they can't do sadhana in Svargaloka. They have to come down onto Karma Bhumi. And they choose this mountain for this. So when they go there and they do Stuti, the Stuti that the Devatas do is one of the most beautiful Stutis, and it is this Stuti that we have picked up and we read so very often. So the Stuti begins. Shall we spend a few minutes on the Stuti? This Stuti starts with them recognizing something. Shumbha and Nishumbha have again caused havoc. Same formulaic story. But what to do? Aham and Mama are not so easy to get rid of. No? By the end of 3 days, I don't know if it will be gone. So imagine if it's not so, even for serious sadhakas, it takes time. Then for ordinary beings, it takes repeated, constant effort. So after a much later point, when Shumbha and Nishumbha are causing havoc, at that point the Devatas go into the mountains and they sit there and begin a sadhana. When they begin their sadhana, the indication used in the words in the shloka is, based on what their forefathers, what their ancestors did, based on what people before them did, they also followed suit. This is a very beautiful indication. If you are a sadhaka, you will, especially in today's time, there is a fad about, listen, can you tell me about a new mantram? I would like something from this particular tantram. I'd like something, specific for these needs. God is not a tailor. Okay, there is this highly customized, I need something just for this problem. I need something a little bit cooler. This aspect really just deals with the head. It doesn't come from the heart. For the heart, Krishna mantra is Radhe Krishna. For the heart, Rama mantra is Jai Shri Rama. You don't need, what is that 13-syllabled Rama mantram that they were talking about? What bijaksharas? All of that becomes very fascinating because it is stimulating this sattva buddhi. But for devatas, for those that deva buddhi, one simple namam is enough, and that namam is Devi. Because the one who is glowing, I am worshipping her. That Devi is coming in various forms. That Devi came first as Mahakali, then she came as Mahalakshmi, and that Devi we are now praying to because Shumbha and Nishumbha are troubling us. So this is a rahasyam and an indication here saying, if you are feeling confused about which sadhana should I do, there are so many things and the internet does not make our lives easier, just take her name. Any name, you take Durga alone, it's enough. But stay with the name long enough for the magic to happen. Don't do the name just because Navratris are going on and then after Vijayadashmi when Ekadashi comes, Govinda, Govinda. Don't forget about the name. On Ekadashi say Govinda, good only. But don't leave behind what you're doing. Navaratri is meant to heighten your sadhana, not to do it just for those 9 days and after that immerse it into the water. No, your objective is stay with it. And the devatas do that. The devatas are representations of what did they say? We said they came, they thought about those people, they thought about all those people who thought about Devi before them. My ancestors have worshipped you, I am worshipping you. I don't need great intellectual stimulation to know that I have to worship you. All I need to know is that I have to bow down in humility. And when I do that, I just recognize that your light is filling this world. That is why the first verse refers to that light as Namo Devyai. But that Devi is present as Chandra, as Surya, as Agni, as for somebody who cuts, for a tailor, that Devi is present as his Shakti of cutting the cloth, of stitching the cloth. For someone who is a farmer, she is present in that ability of knowing how crops work. All of these are Devi Lakshanams. But the Devatas are saying, remember, she is not one amongst these. She is not one amongst Indra, Agni, Vayu, Kubera, Surya. No, she is the source of all of them. She is Mahadevi. Namo Devyai, Mahadevyai. And what does she do? She gives us auspiciousness. Auspiciousness. She takes care of us. So her name is Shiva. Shiva means Shubham. Namo Devyai, Mahadevyai, Shivayai Satatan Namaha. And that auspicious Swarupam comes to us in the form of Prakriti, of the Pancha Mahabhutas. Namah Prakrityai. And when she comes to us, if we bow down, she will take care of us safely. Namah Prakrityai Bhadrayai. But when will she do all this? She will do this when we live our lives with certain niyamas, when we give ourselves a discipline that helps us commit to her. That idea of discipline is Niyata Pranatasmatam. And this Swarupam of hers, she is bringing all of this joy and safety to us. But she can be very intense, as we saw, and she can be very gentle. She knows what to do. That is why Namah Prakrityai Bhadrayai Niyataf Pranatasmatam Raudrayai. That Swarupam who is very fierce. She is eternally there. Namo Nityayai Gauriyai. Let's pause here. Raudrayai Namo Nityayai Gauriyai. Let's take these two words. Raudra Swarupini is her. Gauri Swarupini is her. Raudra Swarupini means who comes to our mind typically? Kali. Gauri, name is only indicating. Have you seen the difference in the imagery? We're all familiar, right? Kali is stark naked, standing there in the middle of a smashana bhumi, standing with her tongue sticking out, with a mundamala sometimes around her, with a hastamala on her waistband, with open hair, disheveled hair, and she's howling. And Gauri, so saumyam, there with Vibhujas, just standing. We just had Gauri Habba about a month ago, and that Saumya Murti is so different. Who is this Gauri and who is this Kali? We said Deva or Devi means Swayam Prakasha Lakshanam, the one that glows. We are in the Milky Way galaxy where the source of light for us is coming from the sun. And because of that sun, everything else is glowing here on earth, so we are able to live, we are able to see this. How many such galaxies are there? Who has seen them? And in each galaxy, there is one source of light that is filling that particular galaxy with that light. Akhilanda Koti Brahmanda, we say. Have we ever thought to imagine? Forgetting ourselves for 1 second and imagining what a light is drenching the three worlds. Not just these worlds, endless galaxies are being drenched by that light. That light is called as Gauri. But the same light that is flooding the worlds sometimes dissolves the worlds into her. And into that darkness, nobody can see. That darkness was where our story began from yesterday. And that darkness is so dark, it is Shyama Varnam. It is dark, it's like night, but a new moon night on an Amavasya Ratri. You cannot see anything then. Midnight on an Amavasya Ratri. It's pitch dark. When she absorbs everything into her, she is called as Kali. When she releases everything out of her, she is called as Gauri. Two aspects of the same thing. She is always present, doing either one or both the functions at the same time. To convey that much, they use three words. Raudraye namo nityayai, Gauriyai dhatre namo namaha. You are as beautiful as that Jyotsna, Jyotsnaye chendurupinyai, Sukhaye satatan namaha. In the interest of time, we will just read the shlokam today. We will conclude with this beautiful verse because this, as many of you know, now leads into a very, very beautiful portion. And this portion has something very, very interesting to it. So, Jyotsnaye Chandarupinyai Sukhaye Satatan Namaha Kalyanyai Pranatam Vridhyai Siddhyai Kurmei Namo Namaha Nairityai Bubhratam Lakshmyai Sharvanyai Te Namo Namaha Durgaye Durgaparaye Saraye Sarvakarinyai Khyatye Tathaiva Krishnayai Dhumraye Satatan Namaha Atisaumyadi Atiraudraye Natas Tasyai Namo Namaha Namo Jagat Pratishthayai Devyai Kritye Namo Namaha. Up till this part, even if we don't know, from here we all know. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Vishnu Mayeti Shabdita begins the stotram. After this, what you see is, from here, every portion, Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu remains the same. What changes is Vishnu Mayeti Shabdita, Chetanetya Bhidhiyate, Buddhi Rupena, etc. Namastasye, 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 Namo Namaha remains the same. So, the Devatas make this beautiful stuti. This stuti is extraordinary. You pick up this stuti alone. And the kind of magic it can do for you is something else. But let's look at what they addressed Devi here as. So the very first one that they said, as I said, is Vishnu Mayeti Shabdita. From there, it moved on to Chetanetya Bhidhiyate, Buddhi Rupena, Nidra Rupena, Kshuda Rupena, Chaya Rupena, Shakti Rupena, Trishna Rupena, Kshanti Rupena, Shanti Rupena, Lajja Rupena, Shraddha Rupena, Kanti Rupena, Lakshmi Rupena, Vritti Rupena, Smriti Rupena, Daya Rupena, Tushti Rupena, Matru Rupena, Bhranti Rupena, Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu, Bhranti Rupena Samsthita, Namastasye, 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 Namo Namaha. Where are they making this stotram? See what's happening outside when Devi's stotram is read. Where are they making the stotram? Sitting in the mountains. When they make this stotram, in that downpour of emotion that happens for them, at that same moment, someone comes. Someone whose father's home is the mountain. Who is that? Parvati comes. Parvati sees this stotram happening and she looks at these people and she says, who are they doing stotram for? And as soon as she asks this seemingly innocent question, one voice, everybody hears, not just her. One voice is heard by her and the Devatas saying they are doing this stotram for me. And they all turn to say, who is that? Who is that stotram addressed to? Who came and said that to Parvati and the other Devatas? We will see tomorrow. And I encourage you to spend the next 12 hours or so, because we do not have too much time, thankfully, between this evening and tomorrow, to go back to this stotram. This is a gem. There is something extraordinary hidden in Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu and Namastasye coming like that. Namastasye, 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 Namo Namaha. Sri Samvedam Shanmukha Sharma in his discourse said this can be called as Devi Namakam, because it is a Namaskaram, 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 Namaskaram 4 times. Something extraordinary is hidden over here, but to understand this, at least once between today and tomorrow, go back to that stotram. hear it, chant it. It's very simple. It doesn't have complicated words. We will sit and see what is so special about this stotram that at the end of this stotram, almost innocently, somebody came and said, Yarik ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ಇದನ್ನ? And then something else magical happened right after that. For that, we have to stay with the stotram. We cannot just go ahead with the story. This entire Mahatmyam requires that we spend time with the stotrams. Don't forget the other stotrams also. Brahmakrita stotram, the first one. The Devakrita stotram, the Aparajita Stuti. And now this stotram that came for them, all extraordinary. These stotrams, and the one who said they are doing this stotram for me is waiting for us on the other side of tomorrow. May our sadhana see us through. And I also just want to place this as we conclude, that it is a mindful decision, as Savitaka rightly said, to not engage in question answers for this session, because what question answers can do is very quickly, all of this heavy feeling can quickly dissipate by somebody saying, should Deepa be facing east or west? And we can go into directions that are really not critical. Those things have their place. But the objective is to stay with the feeling, and that is also the same objective with which we are not encouraging too much interaction in terms of post-session, because this is Navaratri Punya Kalam. There will always be time at future opportunities to talk and to exchange greetings, which have their place. But this Kalam is meant for sadhana. So I urge you as much as is possible to be silent with your own thoughts and your own feelings today, because all that is emerged has to be contained. And for that, silence becomes a container. So rather than finding the need to engage with the medium or anyone else around, just remain with your thoughts. Devi is sitting in those thoughts. So keep her. That is the idea of Devi Avahanam. And having said that, tomorrow we will be engaging with, we'll not do question answers, but we will be speaking, and we can do that interaction tomorrow. But that is secondary. What is most important is what we have developed through these 2 days. So keep the spirit of that with you. And in the downpour of love that is happening outside, may you find within you Buddhi Rupena, Lakshmi Rupena, Shakti Rupena, Daya Rupena, Kanti Rupena, Matra Rupena, Bhranti Rupena, Shanti Rupena Samsthita. Namastasye, 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 Namo Namaha. Sarvam Shri Jagadamba Padaravindarpanamastu. Swasti.